The 2012 Bridge Cape Pioneer Trek, proudly brought to you by Bridge. Beautiful, cool conditions here at Buffelsdrift, and a day in the legs yesterday. Well, not really, just a 15-kilometer prologue, and everyone really excited today for the racing proper. It starts today with a 103-kilometer ride through to Calitzdorp. The Bridge Cape Pioneer Trek is underway. The hard-working logistics crew loading bags to be transported to the overnight camp at Calitzdorp. The atmosphere on the start line relaxed and excited. The riders in for a real treat on the first of 6 long stages.
I think the next few days Sunday's going to be tough. I think tomorrow's going to be tough. I think Thursday in the Kamanasi is going to be very tough. But I've spared my legs, so I think I'm fine.
The innovation of a first-day icebreaker via a prologue of 15 kilometres proved to be a great success, with all the riders thoroughly enjoying the fun of racing hard for around an hour or less. It settled the nerves and got the adrenaline pumping. And the man who built the course was justifiably proud.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I'm the only one riding these trails, and to see so many people enjoying the trails and seeing the smiles on their faces was awesome. And we were riding, and there was the chopper was overhead. And I've been dreaming about that moment for a couple of years, and yeah, I had goosebumps going down these trails and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, something special. I wish I could have done better. I mean, he was awesome. If Matthijs had done this solo, he would have won by a couple of minutes, I'm sure. He was drinking water, looking behind him, and I was just clinging on for dear life. So I'm glad it's over, and hopefully today we can do more of the same. Yeah.
Kevin Evans and David George represented with the race leaders' yellow jerseys, while all the other category leaders received theirs at the post-prologue prize giving. On the 103-kilometre ride to Calitzdorp, the field will climb a relatively moderate 1,720 metres along the way, passing through Laterkansvlei, Buffelskloof, and then riding single track through redstone rock formations. Jeep tracks take them through the Beesemkop Reserve and onto Groenfontein Dam. Today's big climb comes in the last 30 kilometres. They rolled away from Buffelsdrift, along the way saying goodbye to Oudtshoorn, a place they'll see again in 6 days' time when the race returns for its final stage. Oudtshoorn has a long and proud history as the ostrich capital of the world, stretching back to 1847, 16 years before the town was even officially proclaimed. Numerous feather palaces stand as a reminder of the boom days. Sadly, the current generation of ostrich farmers are facing uncertain futures, with the industry in crisis. An outbreak of avian flu has resulted in the culling of hundreds of thousands of ostriches in the last few months. And events such as the Bridge Cape Pioneer Trek brings a degree of hope to this embattled community, with numerous spin-offs creating opportunities for the locals, whose warm hospitality and generous spirit belies the stressful times they're living through. Wearing the race leaders' yellow jerseys, Kevin Evans and David George of Nedbank 360 Life took a 24-second lead over Kango MTB's Matthijs Bierkes and Ben-Melt Swanepoel into the first long stage. The Bridge Bizhub ladies, Ishan Stopforth and Catherine Williamson, led the women's race by just 3 seconds over the Klein Crew chicks, Jolandi de Villiers and Jolande Speedy. And the mixed category sees the Germans Max Friedrich and Nadine Ried of Ergon 24-Hour Racing with a 40-second lead over Sandra Sonchen and Katrin Sturman of Switzerland. Neville Ackerman and Charles Nienaber lead the Masters, Saki and Hannes Hanekom the Amateurs, and Petrus Malherbe is the leading solo rider. The smooth rolling district roads allowed the riders a chance to loosen the legs and get the minds in gear for a very different challenge to day one. This was the Klein Karoo at its very best. Diverse vegetation of Renosterveld, Mountain Fynbos, Karoo-veld and Spekboomveld. This was in abundance. The riders hugged the eastern foothills of the Swartberg Range and the Latekransvlei Valley. Other than ostriches, the farmlands produce onions, lucerne and support beef and sheep farmers. The leading mixed pair, Friedrich and Rieder. Like many of the European riders, still on hardtail 26s. The continued growth in popularity of the Bridge Cape Pioneer Trek has meant an increase in the media coverage, which is complemented by aerial support. As the stage wore on, the lead group was whittled down to a select group of teams. In amongst them, all the leading contenders. And one or two dark horses looking to spring a surprise or two. Friedrich and Rieder on the back of the group. Timo Cooper leads them. He's the solo man in second place behind Petrus Malherbe. What makes a good team? Well, you can start with good friendship, and Chris Volata and Oliver Minnick are just that, and they're pretty useful riders as well. Further back, the pace a little slower. Two of the country's fine young talents, Louis Breston-Knipe and Craig Boyes, have put in months of hard training, and after a solid prologue that put them in third, just a minute and a half off the lead, they were keen to keep up with the leaders. However, Louis overcooked it on a rough descent and crashed heavily. Slightly dazed, he reacted like any racer and remounted, but he was clearly battered, bruised and bleeding and in considerable pain. Partner Craig Boyes had to shepherd him to the next water point, where he was tended to by the medical team. A quick expert diagnosis delivered bad news. Louis' race was over, with a suspected torn stomach muscle amongst some of his injuries. An unfortunate and sad end to the race for the talented young rider. And that misfortune further thinned down the lead group. The two Dutch Nutsberg teams working hard, hammering along the Jeep track, trying to bridge to the lead group. Up close with Oliver Minnick. He and Chris Volata of Astron Cycling just love the rough, harsh terrain, and they're very at home on the sketchy downhills. And they were chasing the lead group, led by Bjerkes, followed by Fitzenmeyer, then Petrus Malherbe, Nico Bell, as well as Heinz Zurberg, Kevin Evans and David George, the defending champions, and Robert Sim, Nico Fitzenmeyer's partner. Hannes and Saki Hanekom in pursuit, and Rory Mapston riding on his own. These trails, sensational single-track riding. Hard grind as well. Bjerkes, Fitzenmeyer, Swanepoel, Combrink, Malherbe, Bell, Zorberg, Evans, George and Robert Sim. Oops, Robert overcooking it and taking a mouthful of Karoo vegetation. Timo Cooper sneaking through. The Nutsberg pairs, they were chasing hard now, trying to capitalize perhaps on the mistake of Robert Sim. They were chasing hard, a little too hard perhaps. Steaming along the Klein Karoo Express, local men Weinhard Mulder and Kobus Barnard. Just 3 seconds separated the top two teams in the women's race, and the Klein Karoo chicks of national cross-country champion Jolande Speedy and Jolandi de Villiers were trying to make up time. They'd gone out strongly, but de Villiers had started slowing, and the race leaders, Ishan Stopforth and Catherine Williamson of Bridge BizHub, attacked. The defending champions were determined to build a large buffer, mindful of the stages to come, and de Villiers' intimate knowledge of the area she lives and trains in on a daily basis. Stopforth and Williamson have developed into a world-class stage racing combination. They justified that claim with a second place at the Transalp in July. This part of the Klein Karoo is a geological wonderland of weird rock formations and contorted strata. The well-known red stone hills, or Rooirandjies, have provided geologists with a unique insight into the Earth's history over the past 800 million years. A mere 125 million years ago, this area was underwater, and the receding sea left telltale red-tinted deposits on the hills. The local residents no longer prehistoric fish, but light-footed cliff-springers. The day's decisive attack came on the penultimate big climb, and it was Nedbank 360 Life in Westvaal, Columbia. Kevin Evans loading up for perhaps a final assault. Nico Bell, in great form after his impressive first showing at the World Championships a week ago, did plenty of work on the front. His partner Khabi Combrink, perhaps feeling the effects of a long, hard season, was on the back. Evans and George holding all the aces in what was going to be a tight tussle to the finish. Watson perhaps chewing on that vegetation he'd taken a bite out of earlier. Robert Daniel Momsen men had a troubled time. Rob Sim had multiple punctures, but they are determined to stay inside the top 10. Bjerkes and Swanepoel determined not to lose too much time to Gavi Combrink and Nico Bell. Had Heinz Zorweg as a pilot fish. Further back in the field, a large group of riders were surprised by an angry swarm of bees, and many were stung multiple times. Thanks to the swift reaction of the race medical team and the assistance of the air medical crew, the worst affected were taken to hospital in timeous fashion and given treatment. A nasty situation for those involved, well handled by all. Having survived, avoided or averted the bee sting pain, those still on the road had to suffer up the Redstone Hill climb. Trevor Rupping, he'll get to the top. The Calitzdorp Dam at 1% capacity a year ago, now looking a lot healthier, as was Kevin Evans and David George's hopes of victory on stage 1. The yellow jerseys were working tirelessly. The lead at one stage over 2 minutes, but they were aware that Combrink and Bell were pushing hard and closing the gap all the time. Roadies a year ago, this pair were now fully fledged mountain bikers, and Bell was showing immense power. Calitzdorp on the horizon, the port capital of South Africa was about to welcome the winners. You can still hear organ recitals in that church, and singing from the same hymn sheet, Kevin Evans and David George as they cross the line for yet another stage win. A great job done.
Yeah, typical Karoo terrain and rough, thorny, rocky. Kevin and I were climbing quite nicely towards the end of the race, and saw the opportunity to take some time out and rode hard on the climbs, and then just pace ourselves to the finish.
Westphal Columbia's Bell and Combrink hauled back that deficit to 36 seconds, crossing the line in second place. They really are contenders this week.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely just not going to let them, ride away, and that's why today, when they went away, we thought, okay, let's just get our marbles together, and we're going to ride back up to them, and so they can see that it's not as easy as let's just ride away from the start and win the race, and obviously they've had a lot of races throughout the year, so they're also a bit tired, I'm sure. So I mean, hopefully we can bank on that and come up with a good result at the end of the race.
Second on the prologue, third on the first stage, Matthijs Bjerkes and Ben-Nel Swanepoel of KangaMTB.com. Max Friedrich and Nadine Reeder dominant once again in the mixed, inside the top 10. And the leading ladies, Ishan Stopforth and Catherine Williamson, putting aside Williamson's mechanical issues, they took the victory by over 8 minutes. Nedbank 360 Life lead now by 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Bell and Combrink up into third place. Volatan Munich of Astrid Cycling also move up in the rankings after the problems of Contigo 28E. Stopforth and Williamson a lead of 8 minutes and a half, and Sternman and Sonchen trail Friedrich and Reeder in the mix by 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Stage 2, history will be made as the riders leave Calitzdorp through the Limerick single track, which is the precursor to the richest stage race finish in the history of South African cycling. 100 grand up for grabs at the top of the Swartberg Pass. The 2012 Bridge Cape Pioneer Trek, proudly brought to you by Bridge.